Okay, I'm hitting record.
Okay,
We all there?
I'm hitting
Test,
record
test.
too. I'm keeping it right in the 3 for you.
It's -6 degrees over the
Please speak like that for the whole duration, Dustin. Welcome to the Honest Designers Show, your transparent look into life as a modern designer. My name's Tom Ross, and I'm the founder here at designcuts.com. And this week I'm joined by my fellow Brit and hand lettering expert, Ian Barnard, American retro design expert, Dustin Lee, and the incredibly talented South African illustrator, Lisa Glantz. Today we talk about people copying your creative work. This is a massive pain point for some designers and can literally make us lose sleep. Without further ado, let's get into the show. So this week we're getting negative and we're getting bitter because we're talking all about people copying your work, which I think is unfortunately all too common, right, for designers. And I'm going to pass the mic off to, I think, the world's biggest victim when it comes to this, Lisa Glantz.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, how would you like me to start?
I don't know, just have a bit of a moan for an hour. I think
just
that's what we're
experience.
Well,
what has happened.
Yeah. Like, how does this work? And I know previously we've talked about, I think, your bad experience with people literally taking your work and distributing it. So we're not talking about that. We're not talking about anything out and out illegal. We're talking about people getting inspired, shall we say, but taking that a little bit far. And
What's your favorite part about that? And then the part that you don't like about that?
Well, I think there's a few avenues with this. You get the people who copy you because they want to learn and they want to, they like your style and they want to learn how to develop their own style that's kind of similar to yours. And that I actually encourage, and I think it's great. But the minute where it starts becoming they copy you and then claim it as their own, that starts getting a bit iffy. And copy you, claim it as their own, and then sell it. That's even worse. But I've got an example. There was a girl from, I think she was Indonesian, if I'm not mistaken.
Wait, is this one of those things? What are those things where there was a girl from Indonesia? Like, what are those called?
It sounds like the stuff.
A limerick. There once was a girl from Indonesia. I passed her a tissue because she sneezed it.
Wow, Tom, you're pretty good at that.
She popped on a skirt and copied my work. And in the end, I didn't need her. Right, anyway.
That was impressive.
Yeah.
That was impressive,
Okay.
Tom.
Please go on,
Wow.
Lisa.
Okay. Yeah, so it was, she found one of my pins on Pinterest of one of my products, and she literally copied it. It was a watercolor piece. It was really impressive because it looked exactly like mine. So, I mean, it's impressive to be able to pull that off. But it
Not blowing your own trumpet.
No. What I mean is that they came out wrong.
Ian, you're getting a little bit more feisty lately.
Sassy. I like
that.
it. No, so to match your sheer level of talent is quite an undertaking.
No.
Is what you're saying.
That's what I mean. Oh, you guys are horrible. No, so it got really weird because I started getting emails from like literally 50 people saying there's this girl, she's copying you, she's claiming it's hers, blah 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 blah. And I kind of looked into it, and she wasn't really selling it for anything. She was just using it as a reference and basically saying it was her own work. And I think that's where it got a little bit icky for me because it sort of blew up into this huge thing where she basically claimed all she had to do was say, this is from Lisa Glantz and I'm copying her so I can learn and blah, blah, blah. That would all been fine, but it just got weirder and weirder and weirder. And I think that's where it starts getting a bit iffy. I think that's where other people start getting offended by it because all you have to do is just say, hey, this is somebody else's work and I think it's great and I'm copying it and I'm learning and it's, whatever. and I think that that's absolutely fine. But yeah, I think when you start developing your own style and you start putting out your own work, I think it's so important to to concentrate on that. And we all artists that are, we want to support each other, and we want to build a community has integrity, and that's fair.
Yeah.
And I think that should be the focus. Once you get there.
It makes
I
me
don't know.
think of a quote. I'm sure you guys have heard of this too. I think it goes, great designers copy. No, good designers copy, great designers steal.
Oh, artist, I think. Yeah.
Great artists steal.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Because that sounds like a terrible lesson.
It does sound like a terrible lesson. I've
It-
never
It
understood
did come from Picasso, though.
Yeah. What it means is that it's, I suppose for me, it's like just completely copying off a style of someone else, whereas a great artist will take what that artist has done, put their own spin on it, which is harder than just copying. So that's why you become a great artist, because you're using all the elements, because no one's ever coming up with like original ideas.
Yeah.
Everything's been done. It's just the way you take something that's already been done and then put a new spin on it.
Yeah.
So, and that's where the talent is, because it does, there's some talent to copying, especially if it's like something, as amazing as what Lisa's done. To be able to copy that takes talent, but then to make it great, even better, is to put your own spin on it. So it's it's me taking stuff from Lisa, maybe with watercolor, and then putting my own spin on what that would look like.
But which, if you think about it, all of us are doing daily to some level. We're taking we're putting our own spin on what's already out there, as you said. I mean, I think that's kind of like the whole development of the artistic world and the design world. I think that's how trends begin. I think that's how trends develop. And I think that's right. I think that's how it should be. But yeah, it's important. I mean, I even have to sometimes think to myself when I'm creating something, did I subconsciously, see that somewhere else? Because, if it starts feeling familiar to you, you think, hang on a minute, is that really fresh from my own mind? Because it's difficult sometimes to keep tabs on what you've seen and how you...
As someone that's just starting to develop drawing, illustrating, tell me if this is stealing or copying when you start doing this. So I've noticed I've been really drawing a lot of like cereal box characters. Sounds ridiculous. What kind of life
do I live?
It
sounds amazing.
But as I've been doing that a lot, I noticed that every night I'm doing it. I fill the page. Somewhere I heard fill the page. So every day, fill the page with these like cartoons, right? A lot of it's just copying them. But as I've done it, I realized, I remember now certain ways that hands hold things, or how the fingers wrap around things, or I remember this certain way that feet are and legs are put together, or the proportions of, like certain kinds of characters with 3 heads tall in this certain cartoon style. But like, for instance, with the hands, very specific, holding things. But I start to learn them, and it's kind of like guitar where you learn licks, and like it might be Clapton licks or something like that. But eventually, like, you forget where you got them from, and you just start using them, and you start mixing them with every other thing that you've ever played. So I'm taking that, I'm stealing that. I mean, I found that complete thing from someone, but I've done it so many times that it starts to look like your own thing, but it's really just a crazy Frankenstein of you repeating yourself so much that it mixes. Is that stealing or copying, or is that okay, or is that not okay?
Kind of sounds like copying leads to stealing, leads to creating.
Which doesn't sound like a great avenue.
Sounds really bad.
But get that on your headstone.
I'm going to jail.
I remember copying a lot when I started doing web design, and not like completely copying, but this is back in the day as well, so don't judge me. This is like old school web design. And I don't know if you guys remember, there would be these little trends like doing a lot of 45-degree lines.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember those? So you'd have the menus with the 45-degree angle lines on like the dividers and on the edge of the menu, and the whole site would kind of be like a hexagon almost, like all these angles intersecting and that kind of thing. And then it would be stuff like you'd do a gradient fill on a content area, but you'd leave the very top pixel line white, which would give it a bevel effect.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
yeah.
I still remember that.
Use that all
whole
the time.
So back in the day, I saw people doing this stuff, and as an aspiring web designer, I was like, that is the most beautiful, sleek thing I've ever seen. That looks so cool. And so I would spend hours trying to literally copy it, where I'd be like screenshotting theirs and trying to work out why the colors they used looked nicer than the colors I was trying to use, and even down to like the spacing. And I wouldn't be putting that on like a template to sell, and in many cases this is even like before I was doing proper client work, but it was such an invaluable exercise for actually understanding this stuff. And you can apply it to anything, whether it's that or illustration, or the classic example I like to give is minimal design, because that's often the hardest. So let's say it's a really high-end print ad. It could just be a black magazine page with white text in the center. But if you do it, quite often it looks terrible when you try and do something that simple, and it's really frustrating. But then you see it in the magazine and you're like, why does that look so much better?
Exactly.
And when you try and replicate what they've done, you start to understand why, and you start to understand how subtle it can be to throw off that balance, where if you make the font slightly bigger or slightly smaller, it looks twice as crappy. Or if you play with the kerning a tiny bit, or if you like change the hue of black a tiny bit or the font a tiny bit, it throws the whole thing off. And so by copying to the letter, you start to actually understand the finesse of design so much better. And so yeah, obviously don't go and like copy that print ad or copy that website completely and go and sell it. But I'm such a big proponent and such a big fan of copying to learn. I think it is truly one of the best ways.
That's the secret. Copy to learn, not copy to earn. Oh, there we go. There's a quote.
Oh, nice.
I'll see you off to make a million to that.
Nailed it. That's so good.
That is exactly it.
That's going on the cover up of this episode.
Yeah.
That's so good. That
Yeah.
Quick plug time. We need to get this in every episode. Honest Designers now on social media. If you haven't seen us, go search Honest Designers. And we're posting inspiring quote cards like that. Soon you're going to see Ian's face saying copy to learn, not copy to earn next to it.
Trendy black and white one where I'm looking at my phone.
Yeah.
And there's a quote down by my shoulders.
Exactly.
Nice.
Where you're tracing on a light box like someone else's lettering.
That would be good. Yeah.
Okay, so we're all agreed.
Your own self.
Copy to learn is great, and Lisa's talent is so monumental. No mere mortal could possibly step into her shoes. So we're agreed on both those points. What about the grey area? Because that's where it gets more tricky, right? So obviously, if you copy it like pixel by pixel and try and sell it or pass it off as your own, that's a no-no. But I feel like there's quite a wide gulf of grey area between that and what's acceptable.
There is. And I think, to be honest, besides the fact that, there's a couple of points that you can look at to discern whether is this too close to somebody's style that you can't be sure it's their work or my work. But it also boils down to your own ethics, I guess, or your own. It's not only about ethics. It's about as a designer or artist or creator. It's like your quest to find your own voice and really apply it in everything that you do. And I think that should be driving you more than anything. So yeah, sure, you're gonna definitely, copy to learn. But as you start developing your own style and become more grounded in who you are as a creative person and an artist, that should be your quest. Should be more. I want somebody to look at that and go, man, that is Tom's work or Lisa's work or Ian's work or Dustin's work. That should be your aim. And
I remember talking to Brad Woodard about this, and he said that he constantly, even now, gets anxious. Like when he does a piece of work, if he can spot something that he feels like is inspired by something else, like he'll change it. Like I'll change the colors up, or I'll change this up, or whatever. Yes. And I think like a healthy amount of anxiety about that is probably a good thing, but he's just such a good example of it, because I know he really tries to be like, I want to be different. I want to be my own person.
I think that's what I was kind of like alluding to earlier on. Like I have that when I'm creating something. I think to myself, because I have so many heroes that I look up to, and inspired by, and obviously there's going to be stuff about it that I like about it. That's why I like it. So you're going to, you'll take little bits and bobs from it.
Can I ask you a question, Lisa?
Yeah.
Are you at all inspired by Disney? Because I know you have quite disparate styles, but the creatures and everything have a slight Disney vibe to them.
Do they? I don't, not overtly, but it's funny you say. The other day I was thinking, as a kid, I found this really old, like, vintage Disney book. Do you remember Mickey Mouse that had the broom that broke, and then first he got the broom to help him clean, and then so the whole book was these songs from Disney, and it had all these like cartoons. I was so taken by that, and I think ever since then it's kind of been like subconscious in the back of my mind. I don't know. Yeah, no, I mean, I've got Walt Disney's lecture books. I mean, Aaron Blaise is like amazing. He's so maybe subconsciously that is a little bit of that.
Nice.
It's weird.
What about this? Because these kind of things happen, and they are so close. Sometimes I can't tell the difference, but I'm struggle to call it copying. So like right now, there's a trend where I feel like I see a lot of this.
Oh yes.
It'll be like for people listening, not watching the video, I'm kind of making like a little prayer shape with my hands, or you'll see like a snake and it'll say something like "Don't tread on me" or something like that. Like I think that's the marine thing, but like people put all sorts of stuff with the snake, or you'll see a rose drawn in that single thing, and oftentimes it's in like coral and blue, right? Like it's all over. You know what I'm talking about? Lisa knows what I'm talking about.
I do.
It's just like an illustration thing.
Yeah. It's like a minimal amount of text, maybe sometimes.
It's kind of, I think they're calling it Scandinavian style, but I don't know.
Okay.
But yeah.
Scandinavian style, I like that. So I can't decipher a lot of times the difference between any of them, but I couldn't draw it back and be like, someone stole from this person. I'm just like, it's just an echo chamber of coolness, but maybe it's bad.
Yeah, I don't know, but maybe the person who first kind of made it popular, or because I mean it had to be found somewhere, right, for it to become a trend.
I don't know. How does that happen? There needs to be like a Malcolm Gladwell book on this.
Yeah, so maybe that first person is like, I don't know, freaking out.
Yeah, they're fuming right now.
Yeah.
Dustin, when you first put your hands together in the prayer shape, I thought you were going to do like that thing where you do a dog as a shadow against the wall. So maybe that could be you iterating on the trend.
Yes.
Everyone else is doing praying hands, and you do the little,
which has already happened.
Little hand dog.
That's already been out there.
Oh, that really?
Yeah.
Damn it.
Dang it.
See, that's the thing is you think you've come up with your original idea, and
so I actually posted about this on my personal Instagram recently, talking about authenticity, but not essentially being a second-rate version of someone else, because I think the tendency can be to be inspired by someone else and try and mimic them entirely, and you're never going to be a better version of them than they are, right?
Nope.
So if someone wants to be Lisa Glanz, they're not going to do that better than you. And
well, let's hope.
Yeah, let's hope. Or that would be hilarious if they like took it really extreme and got the glasses and the hair and like
they just need
really
like
committed.
2 more glasses of wine.
Exactly.
That would be such a good Netflix movie.
And then we'll have her on the podcast.
But we wouldn't even know she was on the podcast. Then we'd be like, wait, something doesn't seem right about you, Lisa. You're not drinking as much as you usually do.
Lisa Glanz 2, played by Nicolas Cage.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
But anyway, so in my post, I was basically saying how I think the best way to kind of be inspired and to an extent copy others is you pick not all of them, but the little bits you resonate with most and that you enjoy most about their work. And then you kind of combine that into a bit of a cocktail of you and the bits you like most from loads of different people who influence you. And that comes up with a unique combination, essentially.
And over time, it melds into like this thing.
Yeah, complete. Like, and we do this all the time, and we even do it on a business level with Design Cuts, where I am ripping off some stuff that I loved about customer service from Zappos, the shoe company, right? And there's some really cool video stuff that Wistia, our video host, do. And so we kind of creatively borrow from them, and no one's going to care. We're not like copying it to the letter, but they're an influence on how we do things. And then we obviously put our own personal stamp and style onto that, but they all kind of blend together into this unique mixture. And I think that could be more effective, right? So like a hand letterer, if they're literally trying to copy Ian's letter forms, that's not going to work. But they might follow his work and go, oh, I really like the way he does his T's. I'm going to sort of bring that back into my work just because that really resonated with me. But actually, they like how Stefan does, and Gothic lettering style, and so they borrow a bit from there, and then they're learning from a book at home, which technically was someone else's original work, and they all come together, right?
Well, and even think about Ian's. Like, Ian, one of your most popular posts you did was when you did that lettering series of the alphabet. I mean, I watched that and remembered how to draw like an A, so like the lines on top would like line up correctly. Like, totally stole that from you. I'm using that forever. So do what you want. But then Ian's like also totally stealing. I mean, he totally stole from the alphabet. I mean, the Greeks or whoever made the alphabet did it first, and he's just getting these letter forms from like hundreds of years ago, A through Z, as you like call it in the UK, and he's totally just like copying them into words.
Yeah, he's banned from the local Greek restaurant because they are apoplectic, right?
Come here, stealing our fonts.
Stealing our alphabet. You verbose.
Actually, here's the thing. One of my posts, my like really earlier post, which was inspired by, and I can't remember the artist at the moment. I did put it in the post that I was inspired by him, where there's like the face and like the words are written over the face.
Oh yeah.
Because the guy did it. I saw it in a book, and the guy did it because it was like he took photos of people in the city and put on it what they were thinking.
Oh wow.
And I thought, I'm gonna give that a go. Did it in my, took the concept and then did it with my own style of lettering on top of it. So so I suppose the copying bit was taking the words on the face, but I did it in my own style. So, but also put that this was inspired by him, and it wasn't a piece of work that was anything paid for. It was just a bit for social media, and that got me my first like major client.
Cool.
Nice.
And yeah, so there's long.
You see, now that is a perfect example. Sorry, and I'm interrupting. That is a perfect example of how we should be encouraging each other to do exactly that. It's that feels good, not the copying and then earning from, the direct sort of credit.
And I think the thing I always make sure that if I'm using someone else's work as reference, that I if I look at the side by side and there's too many similarities, then I make sure that I reference that artist and say this is heavily inspired by, and give them, tag them into the post or whatever that may be. And even if it is only like a small element, but I think what I found is if you try and do like, if you find a piece you like and you try and do all of that piece as an inspiration, then it will look exactly the same, even if it's different words. What I find better is, like we were saying earlier, taking elements from it and combining it with something else will make it look different. And that's what you're trying to get. You're not trying to get, because like if you try and be or try and do something that someone's already doing, you will never get any work. But if you try and do something that's a combination of like minimum of two things, it will produce something completely different. And that's when you will develop a style through that combination.
Exactly.
And I think it's, and over time those things will merge and become one thing, and then your thing will be the thing that someone else uses as inspiration to combine with something else. So it's a continuous evolution of work, really, of styles, of how you.
Can I give you an example of Lisa, one of your products, where I can think of something that would be not so great and something which is really cool that's come from it. So your portrait creator, for example, is really popular, and what wouldn't be acceptable would be to see that and go, okay, I'm going to create a people portrait creator too, and I'm going to do it in this whimsical kind of watercolor style, and I'm going to try and mimic your style, and then I'm going to color pick and sample your colors. And pretty much create the same pack. So that obviously that sucks, but and I don't know if it was inspired by you, But a great example could be, do you guys know Cirque Works? Guy Scott runs it. And he did a pack where it was build your own zombie. And then he also did build your own monster.
Never saw that.
And I don't think it was bodies and stuff, but it was like a monster head and a zombie head, and they were so cool. They had all these kind of cool like cartoon eyes and like brains coming out the zombies, and it was
That sounds so cool.
It was
But he
completely
like really likes zombies. I remember we wrote back and forth a bit, and he was like, "I love zombies."
yeah. He's a really cool guy. I've had a proper call with him actually, and yeah, I love it. He's got an awesome brand. He's kind of like the mad scientist of design thing going on.
Cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. But I look at that and it's like completely different from yours. And again, maybe he wasn't inspired at all. But if he was, that would be a perfect example of like how far you can take an inspirational idea, because he could go, oh, cool.
Exactly.
Okay, so you can build something using this kind of kit to build a
Yeah.
character. And I really like zombies, so I'm going to apply that to what I like.
Yes.
Well, I know we made
Yeah,
some
exactly.
attempts after Lisa. You had talked about how popular your portrait creators were. We made some attempts at making like a retro character portrait creator,
Oh yeah.
and they were just not good enough. So they just didn't get released. But I was like, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but I was like, well, why would she care? It's like the structure, the skeleton of a portrait creator doesn't seem like anyone owns it, or that would be bothersome. What's bothersome is if I'm pulling money out of your pockets because people are confusing it for something like yours, or they're like, oh, same as Lisa's, just $5 cheaper.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly. No, that's exactly it, Dustin.
And I doubt
Absolutely.
someone's going to have this whimsical like wedding invite lined up and they're like, actually, I'm going to swap out those cute characters and put like a super like retro dude on there. Like it just wouldn't fit.
No, it's a different audience, different customer.
exactly.
So, yeah. No, that's definitely.
You know, one of the best ways I think to like copy is, and this is how Retro Supply really started, is looking at the things that you wish were just a little bit different and they didn't do it that way.
Yeah.
And then building off that and kind of, you know, like I think Derek Sivers from his book, Anything You Want, really short, nice little book about creating stuff. And he's like, you know, make it your own world. The things that you wish existed in products or services that don't, make that your mission to add those things in. And when you do that, you are in so many ways making it your own.
Absolutely.
The thing is, with all this stuff, you know, we talk about the whole building an audience takes a long time. So you really need to be really interested in doing this stuff. And I don't think you can sustain just copying someone over and over again without it just, I don't know, just not working for your creative state and mental state, I suppose. You know, you couldn't go the long run, you know, if you didn't, I suppose, yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, there'll always be people out there that are just in it for the money. So that's always going to happen. But I think as an artist, like an artistic point of view or creative point of view, I think eventually it'll eat you away, because it's like you eat away at you, because you're gonna want to fulfill that creative thing, you know. And I think that excitement and that joy that you get when you've discovered like stuff about yourself, you know, the whole like creating stuff, it's I mean, that's nothing beats that. It's like a drug, actually.
Well, perfect example. So me and Tom know Jason Karn, who's an amazing lettering artist. He does like not like opposite of Ian, very, very traditional.
Very good.
Incredible. yeah,
but just very traditional. You'd have to look at Jason Karn.
He's got real talent. No, he's got amazing, like, intricate work, though,
He
right?
didn't buy all his followers.
Yeah, I mean, it's just totally different. It's the other end of the spectrum. But the point is that he, for instance, has invested a lot of money in collecting old lettering books. And he did that because he looks through those. He loves it. It's not that he's copying it. He loves this stuff. He goes in forums and talks to, you know, old school OGs in the lettering community. Wow. And, you know, they're talking about how you need to apprentice under someone. You need to do that. And he loves that. And he respects that. And he looks through these books and it gets him excited. And then he goes and draws something. And I'm sure he pulls stuff from these books, you know, but he's not copying it. It's just that he's so excited about doing this stuff that he just looks at all that stuff and, you know, your hands get fidgety. You just want to start drawing something.
Yeah.
And it's not at all copying. It's him just wanting to be able to do the stuff that he loves so much you know?
Is the difference, Dustin, that I doubt he's doing that with all this passion and enthusiasm and genuineness, and I doubt in the back of his mind he's thinking, is this unethical? Am I copying? I bet that would never cross his mind because
No
he's
way.
not doing it.
Yeah.
But I would say, for anyone listening, being like, how do I know when I'm kind of too far the wrong side of the grey area? I think a lot of the time people have the thought of like, is this too close for comfort? And I would say if you're having that thought, it's probably too close.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. If you have to question, yeah.
Yeah.
People will tell you if you are, because they just say, "Oh, this is a
Oh,
rip
yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
There is that, which is not nice. Yeah.
Well, and the thing too is like I think Lisa was onto a great thing because I think it can be so restrictive if you feel like you can't copy people. But Lisa, I thought you brought up a good point when you said if you do, like, acknowledge exactly what you're doing and don't sell it or try to take it off as your own. So when I started the 100-day challenge, I copied so much stuff. I just found stuff I liked and I kind of, you know, like I would like look at it and like make something similar. Sometimes it was totally objects, but sometimes it was artwork I liked. And I would literally, I mean, you can look through my Instagram feed and you'll see, I'll be like, this is directly taken from this person because I wanted to try this. I was like, I even tagged Nick Slater. I was like, this was taken from Nick Slater because I want to know how he did this. And I'm not trying to sell it. I'm not trying to do anything, but I just wanted to learn from it. And then I'm just kind of documenting, hey, just so you know, not trying to pull this off as my own, but I wanted to try it because it's cool, you know?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, Dustin, all you did was publicly go on a journey of discovery of your style. I mean, if I think back to when I was trying to figure out my style, my illustration style, which, I mean, it was a hell of a journey because it was a combination of excitement and frustration, and I mean, obviously, I spent hours copying the people that I look up to because that's how you learn. That's how you figure out what is it about their work that really resonates with you or sings to you that you wish you had in your work. And it's I believe that the only way to really discover that if you really, you know, kind of deconstruct it, or, you know, it's like looking at a cake and you want to be able to bake it. Like, you need to eat it. How are you going to know what it tastes like, you know? So yeah, I think it's important to at least go down that road for sure. But
so
obviously...
Lisa, I'm a little aspiring young designer, okay? And my name is Little Richard. Let's go with that.
Why? How about your name is Little Skipper?
My name's Little Skipper.
Skipper.
And Lisa, I want to grow up and I want to be just like you.
Oh.
How do I go about that, please?
You draw and draw and draw every day
until your dreams come true.
Yes.
But what would you actually say? Like, imagine someone is like a kid and their dream is to be, you know, someone just like Lisa Glatton's in the future. How do you set them on the right path without just saying, rip me off?
or take my Skillshare class.
Cough up, Skipper. You tight little bastard.
I think I mean, you've got to encourage them to experiment. For me, I think that's number one. And in that experimentation means copying people. It means figuring out what do you like, pencil, pen, vector, whatever. You know, you got to figure that stuff out. And it does, unfortunately. You know, everybody thinks there's like a sure way to find your style or get to the end. There's only one way, and that's to consistently do it every single day until you get there. There is no shortcut. But you can speed things along by, I guess, you know, looking at your heroes, dissecting their work, you know, copying it, figuring it out. And applying it to your own work. And as you said, everyone says here already, you got to figure out, like, is this too close to theirs? You know, have I got there yet to my own style, or is it still too much like theirs?
Would you think, and I know I've seen this myself, to find that balance, you often do take it too far. It's not like you go from your origin of starting to having the perfect balance of like a little pinch of inspiration and that's it. I think you know what I mean? It's like drinking, right?
Yeah.
You're younger and you get blind drunk because you're finding your limits and finding where
Yes.
the balance should be.
I think this could be an age thing because when I was a lot younger, I mean, I used to literally copy my Archie comics. I don't know if you guys know Archie comics.
Yeah.
Am I showing my age?
I love Archie.
I used to literally copy all the characters because I was young and silly, and I thought, well, if I can draw them, then
World is
then
my
I'm a good
oyster.
drawer. Yeah, whatever. So I mean, while reality set in, I became a graphic designer. Drawing was like the last thing on my list, and when I started, exploring the drawing all over again, because I think it was my age, I realized you can't spend too much time copying other people because you need to find your own stuff. So you got to like only take aspects of it. I don't know. I've never really been in that situation, Tom. So for me, it was literally, take aspects, try and apply it where I could. Really like spend as many hours as I could trying to figure out what it is about their work, try and copy their techniques.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. But I wanted it fast tracked, so I didn't really swing too much the other way. I
think there's a nice parallel to this. Tom, you're probably familiar with this because I think you studied copywriting a bit. Haven't you?
Not studied, just tried it and had to figure it out as I go.
Okay.
I mean, nothing on copy to learn, not earn, not that kind of level. That's that's like an in masterclass. But
there's like a very common practice that they tell people that want to be professional copywriters to do, and that's to get like, there's like a couple hundred classic ads that have been high earning, very successful ads, and they'll say, get that ad, get out a piece of paper and write it down with a pencil and paper, the entire ad out. You're not going to, they're not intending you to sell that ad or pretend like you wrote that copy. The point is they want you to very slowly, meticulously do it so you understand the sequence, why they jump from subject to subject, so you kind of are almost getting to sit inside the brain of the person that wrote the copy. And
it's a really good idea.
Yeah, it's a brilliant idea. And I haven't really done it, but it seems like it would work great to me. But I feel like lots of times when I'm drawing stuff, I'll look at these cereal box characters and I'm drawing them, and it's kind of like you're in that person's brain for a minute, It's like you're drawing, you're like, oh, here's why they drew the object first or before they put the hand around it, or here's why they sketch out the proportions in basic shapes before they do it, or here's why they build an entire body first and not just a head.
Yep.
You get that because you're sitting in the head of somebody.
Do you find though when you're doing that you get super frustrated when you can't do it as well as them? Yes. This was my foray into illustration when I was very young. Do you remember the Roald Dahl books?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember Quentin Blake, the illustrator?
Mm-mm.
So
no, I don't.
Name.
In quite a few of them, they had like these really whimsical, kind of rough, childlike sketches, but they were really good, and they like really captured the spirit of the writing,
right.
and they pretty much went into all of his books and on all the covers. And I was obsessed with all his books, and I was obsessed with Quentin Blake's illustrations. And I remember trying to copy them, thinking, well, he's done them really like rough and like kid-like. So how hard can it be? And I'd do it, and I'd be like, mine looks like the biggest pile of steaming shit I've ever witnessed. Why can't I get mine to look like his? And it was so frustrating.
Yeah.
And I don't really know what advice we can give besides practice, but I would say to anyone out there being like, oh, this all sounds good, copy people to learn. It's worth kind of caveating that it's not going to come out like the person you're copying, certainly not at the start.
Yeah.
I've done it, I've actually gotten really good. Well, I don't want to.
Ooh, I like this.
But I started like drawing these cartoon dudes. I was really bad at first. Look at these people; they're like absolutely horrid. I'm showing pictures of these horrible.
Still better, like 10 times better than what I could do.
But then look, I was like kind of copying,
cool.
but I was mixing together different ideas at this point, and they start to get better. And then like,
by the way, everyone. Honest Designers show on YouTube. You might want to check it out right now because there's visual aids.
Try and do a timestamp, just that.
They kept getting better and better until eventually, like this guy down here was a guy I made.
Oh wow, that's cool.
But
It's
he was
really
a
good,
combination of like learning how to hold like the classic cartoon hand in a certain way
Yes.
until I got it down, and doing these different things, and
You're a talented gentleman.
well, I'm getting there. But I think the way I found it not to be frustrating was by just realizing as I'm doing it, I try to just remind myself, you're 100 drawings, like you're 100 more characters away from being like decent.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, that's one down, 99 more to go before you're okay.
Something I teach people with like who want to get into lettering is that I say it on the video I've done on YouTube, is that there's 3 stages. The first one is just tracing. So you're going over the letters. You find a font you like, just going over the letters again and again and again. Because as you do it, you've got like what Dustin said with the copywriting. Those words are going in your head, and your muscle memory is improving. But you're also getting to know the intricacies of the letters, and you realise that the like for instance, I'll give an example with the letter E, like the capital letter E, that the middle stem doesn't stick out as far as the top and the bottom, because if it did, it would make it look like it's sticking out further than the other two. So it has to be cut down a little bit. And you don't realise that until you start going over these letters time and time again. And that actually, when you're drawing, you think, it's not the same. It's slightly smaller. And you realise that there's all these slightly optical illusions to help counteract what your eye sees. But you get that through just going over and over again. So the first stage is tracing. The second stage is using it as reference. And this is probably quite good at just design in general. Having it beside you and you draw next to it. And then the third stage is getting rid of the reference material and just going for it. And in that's the stage when you will develop your style, because you take the basic structure of the letters and then add your own unique spin on those letters. So it's the same thing, copy some design, reference that design, and then along comes your own style.
As someone in the middle of that, that's exactly how it's felt to me.
Well, even like your worksheets, Ian, for learning lettering, and we had Debbie Sementelli, if you guys know her, into the Design Cuts offices, and she's done some of the biggest hand-lettered fonts in history, I think, and super, super talented. And she did a live workshop with us to learn brush lettering. And it was exactly that. She had letter forms that we had to trace on printed worksheets. Then she'd take them away and have them to the side, and we do it. And then she was like, okay, now go and do hand lettering. Bearing in mind, this is within 1 hour. So my hand lettering sucked at the end still. But it was a lot better than if I went from nothing to just trying to do it.
Well, exactly.
Unassisted.
Yeah. And the thing is, it's not the thing is that process is not easy, but if you can keep at it, you will know that you'll get a great style at the end, and you'll get some great skills at the end. But you have to go through that to be able to, like you say, learn, copy, and make your own, really.
So, yeah, completely agree. I was going to say, this episode so far for me, it's been mature, it's been reasoned, and it's been pragmatic, and I don't like that because I came on here to have a bit of a moan. I think
to have fun and rip us off.
Yeah, completely. So I think it would be worth, before we close, just touching on how it feels to be copied, because we've talked a lot about the people who would be doing the copying and from their perspective and learning and stuff. But I guarantee we're not the only ones. There's going to be people listening who've had their work ripped off. So should we touch on how that feels and what to do about it?
Yeah. I could start. Well, I guess any of us could start because we probably all feel pretty strongly.
Can you go, Dustin?
Yeah, I'll go. Here's exactly how it feels to me. I mean, so I'm not like Lisa and Ian in that no one will hire me to do any design work. I am.
What?
I don't seek it out. I don't know. They probably hire me if I did. I'm joking, but I'm running off my shop mostly, right? So I'm selling stuff in my shop for most of my income. And so when someone comes out and their thing is really, really close to mine, where I can see from layout things, if I overlay it, they did this and that, and it was very, very close. I think people think that it feels like enraging or something because someone is taking like the idea from you. And I don't think they realize how much deeper of an implication it has. So for instance,
Yeah.
I was broke, I was in debt, I had a child on the way, and I was able to get out of that like at the last minute. I mean, barely, like scrape by. So when someone takes something that and basically tries to emulate it so it looks exactly or very close to mine where it's confusing, it literally, quite literally feels like someone is taking money out of my pocket and endangering me being able to take care of my children. I know how dramatic that sounds, but it really feels like that. I don't feel like an artist where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm an artist, and like, how dare you like take something that I think is my art. I feel like if everyone did this, my children like are going to like be in trouble. That's really how it feels in my head, and it like literally hurts my heart to sound a little cheesy.
Do you feel physically sick? Because I've had that.
I feel physically sick. I literally, like, there's been days when people have taken things where I had to take, like, medication, like, take a tranquilizer and stop working and, like, just sit outside and try to calm down because I felt not even angry, just so frustrated and trapped.
Yeah.
Yep.
How about you, Lisa?
Well, for me, it's I have those same feelings that Dustin has. But they actually are also, because I put my heart and soul into my work, like literally it's pieces of me essentially. It's like my inner world, it's like my kind of like my imagination, it's it's all those kind of things. So it's really, it's something, it's a piece of me, and for somebody to take that and rip it off, it really, it's as you said, Tom, it makes you feel ill, man. It's not a pleasant feeling. It like you want to get physically ill, and then of course you want to physically kill someone. Well,
it's that feeling in your solar plexus, right? That horrible feeling right here.
It's terrible. And when it was really bad, when that massive company stole, took my work and sold it, literally as you said, Dustin, was a direct competition to me, so yeah, it was horrible. I wanted to stop, so I don't know what the advice is, because I don't know if I've actually found a way to deal with that properly, but yeah.
How about reaching out? So maybe like big companies, if it's that direct and it's illegal, it can obviously have lawyers involved. But if it's someone who's just the wrong side of the grey area, do you think just reaching out to try and educate them?
Yeah, I did. There's actually one person in particular that I did reach out to, and shame, I could hear in her, well, for reading her reply, she obviously felt bad, and at least what was good about it, she didn't deny it, because that would have been horrible if we had this whole argument. Yes, you did. No, you didn't. I mean, it was so damn obvious what she was doing. So she was nice about it. Well, I started off being nice, so I guess she had no choice to be nice back. But I don't know. She was nice about it, and she apologized and she admitted it and said she wouldn't do it again. But yeah, that it is better to do that. But
leaves a sour taste, though.
It does.
You just wish it never happened.
Yeah.
How about you, Ian?
I got ripped off today. So.
Hey, how timely!
Really?
What it mainly, obviously, there's the product sides of stuff, and that's always getting ripped off or being sold, being given away for free when it should be paid for, and I've given up on that because the people who are going to buy it are going to be the genuine people who would pay for it anyway. So I've sort of given up that. But on this lettering side of stuff, like today was one of my pieces from half a year ago. But what they'd done is they'd taken the type and then put it into a different picture. So it was on a picture previously, but they'd taken the type and put it onto another picture and not tagged me in it or put anything about me in it. And what's quite nice about having a large following who are really engaged and love my work is that they highlight, they stumble across it, and then they
yes, I also get that.
They message me and say, look, well, not all they need to do is just send me a picture. And so I go and check it out, and I say, would be nice if you credited me for the work. And if they don't do that, then I try and report it. And if they don't do that, then I have to use the weight of my audience just to come down on them and just, spam them with sort of comments to say, look, this is, because there was like other people's work on there as well. It's normally, if it's just, I let some go, for me, it's less about just me, myself, and it's more about all the other artists that might be affected by that as well. Especially if they maybe have a smaller audience and could be easily confused that work is the person who's posting it and not the person who's it actually is. And sometimes there's a genuine reason why they haven't tagged it and they've forgotten or they didn't know who it was. But this one was like literally taking my work, put it into a different picture and posted it. So I haven't heard back yet on that one, but it seems to be a case of people just you look through their feed and then suddenly there's a bit of your work or there's a bit of someone a bit of Draplin style work or something like that, and you just like you're like I feel a bit like what are they trying to achieve by this, because they're not gonna someone might get confused and pay them for this work, but they're not going to be able to deliver that. So, it's less about, I don't think I suffer greatly from it, but I feel that, I just confused why people do it. Do you know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Totally.
Well, yeah.
Do you remember, you guys, do you remember the first time we met? This is how important I feel like this issue is to everybody, not just us, but people listening. The first time we met, when this was not a podcast, but a mastermind group where we were all just discussing things with each other, I think we talked about this the entire time because we had so much built up anxiety about it.
Yes. It's true.
Yeah, we spoke for like a couple of hours nearly, I think. Having a collective anxiety attack.
Yes, exactly. I remember Lisa telling me stuff and be like, oh, I'm so glad to hear someone else be in pain.
Yeah.
I agree with you, Dustin. It's like, taking money from your pocket, because I literally found my actual product inside someone else's product.
I remember
I was given permission by the platform to buy the product and look at it, and it was literally they're just taking my product and put a different cover on it. And it's just I get confused. I just like, why are you doing? Because it's like, I know that those who copy are never going to do well, but like you say, it's those people who get confused. And what, for me, I suppose, they might get a few more sales from it. But what it is that people might get confused and think it's my product and then get let down by the quality of what they've done. And so that then reflects bad on me. And also is bad for the person who spent their money on a product or whatever it might be. So.
In the defense of the people that have done that, I look back on stuff I've done early on, and I would imagine you guys do too, to some degree. And I don't. If I ever thought I was blatantly stealing, I would not do it. But I've definitely been too close to things before. I think we all have. So I guess especially early on when you're doing, like, for instance, a shop. So I guess my point is, it's surprising how often when you write people, they're remorseful and they want to make things right. Because I think a lot of times they're trying to figure things out just like I was in the beginning, and you're not sure where the line is, and you never wanted that. You don't want someone not liking you and writing you emails telling you stole. I mean, not always. Sometimes people are just stealing, but
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, I got really distracted there. I want to do a community shout out. I don't know if you guys can see that, but basically one of the regular listeners, who is Rebecca Pilas Zach. I'm murdering that. I'm sorry, Rebecca. Wow. We'll put a link in the show notes, but basically Rebecca did a really lovely post that just popped up on my phone on Instagram, tagging the show and all of us and saying how she's a regular listener and recommending it. So Rebecca, I know you are a regular listener, and we want to give you a shout out and say thank you so much. And we always love when you guys do that stuff. It means a lot. And sorry for murdering your name. I can't read today.
One positive thing on people stealing your work or copying your work is the fact that they think it's good enough. Do you know what I mean? They think it's good enough to steal, which sometimes is actually quite a compliment. That someone.
The ego boost going on there.
Yeah, because like no one stole my work at the beginning for the first couple of years. You know,
That actually could be a great marketing thing. Imagine if on your website it said "stolen by" and then had a list of all these super reputable, awesome companies.
you know those designers who got their stuff stolen by Zara and similar. They could say as the artist featured in the lawsuit.
Cool. Well, hopefully that was helpful to everyone listening at home. If you are being copied, then I don't know, get on a mastermind and have a group anxiety attack. It certainly helped us.
Let us know.
Let us know, honestly. Hit us up or let friends, peers know. It's just good to get out your own head with this stuff. And remember, if you're the one doing the copying, Ian, what's the expression?
Copy to learn, don't copy to earn.
Oh, I never get tired of hearing that. And if you feel like you're kind of erring on the side of it being wrong, you probably are. So it's good just to bear
Always
that
cover
in
your
mind.
bases with tagging whoever the artist you were inspired by. Or just making sure you always reference. If you can, it's always it's always helpful when people respect you for that, because you can lose a lot of if you don't, people can get a bit of a bad taste in your mouth thinking that you just copy.
Or have the permission and rights. I mean, design by definition, you can use other people's stuff. For instance, Design Cuts is giving people assets. It's okay if you have the license.
Yeah. Very good point. But yeah, we will see you guys next week, and bye from all of us.
Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this week's episode. If you have ever had your work copied, we hope today's discussion made you feel a little better and a little less alone. As always, you can find full show notes over at honestdesigners.com, or find us over on iTunes by searching for The Honest Designers Show. And remember, we're now on social media too, if you search for Honest Designers, as well as Spotify. If today's episode helped you, then it would mean the world to us if you took just a moment to leave us a quick review over on iTunes, as this is one of the best ways for your fellow designers to discover the show. Thanks again for tuning in, and we will see you next week right here on The Honest Designers Show.